Welcome to Season 2 of the Empower to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Dena and I'm so excited to take you on a journey through the ups and downs of motherhood. Together, we are going to learn, prepare for, and unearth all things motherhood because I believe that exposure and awareness can lead to empowerment. So buckle up for an unfiltered, raw, and insightful journey. Are you on the brink of parenthood, eagerly anticipating the arrival of your little one? Take a proactive step towards preparing for the whirlwind journey ahead by joining our waitlist for the Empowered First Year Postpartum Prep course. Designed with your needs in mind, this online 4-week program offers a comprehensive blend of education, skill building, and community support to guide you through the demanding postpartum season. Don't navigate this transformative time alone. Click the link in the show notes below to join our next cohort and embark on your journey to parenthood with confidence. Hello, you beautiful souls, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Empower to Heal podcast. This season is all about motherhood, and I'm really excited to have a dear friend of mine and a mentor of mine present to have a deep conversation today about birth keeping, preparing for the postpartum season, blessing moms on this journey as they step into motherhood and they bring another life into this world. And so I'm excited to introduce you to Jen Hopridge. She is a certified professional midwife, and she's licensed. She's a licensed midwife providing perinatal primary care since 2011. So she's been doing this for a very long time. She's also a maternal wellness coach, a transpersonal hypnotherapist. She's certified in meditation, and she's a Reiki master teacher. And Jen has created Magical Mama, a beautiful, thriving community of mamas. She's had this since 2014, and in this Magical Mama community, she offers workshops, weekend retreats, day retreats, year-long wellness and education programs for moms in Arizona, and it's expanded to having an online component for moms anywhere to join. And Jennifer also serves, just like I do at Fourth Trimester Arizona, as a village lead, and she oversees and serves our virtual village there. She is a mother of an adult son and a beautiful 6-year-old daughter, and it is an honor to have her here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Jen.
Oh, Dina, it's such a joy to be here with you. Thank you for all you're doing for our community and the wider community as well. It's so beautiful.
Oh my goodness. It's been such a blessing to get to know you. Fun story. I actually met you before I realized I met you. And in Fourth Trimester of Arizona, we have villages, and I officially met Jen, to my present day knowledge, in these village gatherings, leading villages and serving the community in Fourth Trimester. But it dawned on me not too long ago that I knew you from when I was pregnant, and you offered a mother's circle. It was at the same building that like Magical Mama's headquarters is at today in Chandler, Arizona. And I remember coming into a different room. It wasn't the same room that you're in, and sitting in circle on your chairs that you have that like open on the floor, like bleacher chairs that you can set on a bleacher, and meditating and having this powerful experience in my pregnancy to prepare me for bringing my son into the world. I didn't know it was you this whole time, that you were that person in my life.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I had this circle. It was, I don't know, maybe it was like a year that I was doing this once a month called Meditation for Mamas. And yeah, it was for pregnant people to come and meditate and write a little affirmation and develop some sisterhood. So that's incredible. I love that that's our origin story. It's so awesome.
It makes me giggle because I had no idea that was you. I think your hair was much shorter, and it was right before you were pregnant with your daughter, I believe. And I told my supervisor, because I left work early to attend one, like I needed to hustle over to get there in time. And my supervisor thought it was the coolest thing that I was going on this journey, because I was also taking hypnobirthing classes. And she was like, I love that you're being so intentional and connecting with your body and your baby in your womb. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And now here I am today, like 7 years later, fully
That is
embracing it.
It's amazing. Yeah, what an incredible transformation and evolution that you've gone through to now be in such incredible service to everyone who is in that same place that you were in when you were taking good care of yourself too. And yeah, like the meditation piece, I was really meditating every day when I was pregnant with my daughter, and it taught me so much. So it feels good to be bringing meditation forward, especially during pregnancy when not only does the pregnant person receive the benefits of meditation, but the baby actually receives some
Mm.
benefits too. So it felt good to offer that circle, and I just love that we were together before we even um, had any professional relationship. That's so cool.
I think it's so serendipitous. It aligns perfectly with the trajectory of how my work has gone. And what you just explained about the meditation for yourself and how you did it every day and the benefits for yourself and for your baby is just a little snapshot and reason why I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. You are such an intentional leader in the birth community here in Arizona, in the motherhood community here in Arizona, and to me, you're a thought leader. Like you really support us in provoking our thoughts to think in a different way, to embody motherhood in a different way, and the transition, that threshold we cross over when we give birth, when we have our baby. And the way you approach it brings in the spiritual component, it brings in the power that we have within ourselves. It quiets a lot of the fear that we get in our society around birth and this big event of birth being some big medical thing. And it brings it back to what it should be as sacred and connected with you and your baby and your community. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have you on today is because you opened my eyes around birth in this way. And I hope that this conversation will reach more people who have never met you and you'll help open their eyes too.
Oh, thank you, Dina. Yeah, it really is. It's a metamorphosis that we go through, and it's an initiation that we go through each time that we give birth. And giving birth has every component of any good initiation. I always think about my husband going through the process of all the levels of the Boy Scouts. And then to become an Eagle Scout, he had to stay in the woods by himself for like 48 hours. And the Cub Masters were like close enough by that they could help if there was a true emergency. But he had to be out there and just set up his own shelter and, just go through the journey alone and face the fears that came during the night, when there's mystery, when you can't really see around
Mm.
the corner. And I really look at the process of birth in the same way that it's an initiation because there's so much mystery that's involved in it. Like you could pay the most brilliant scientist in the world $100 billion, and they would not be able to tell you when you're going to go into labor, how long your labor is going to be, um, the events of how it's going to play out. Like none of it. There's so much mystery in it. So we bring a lot of courage forward each
Mm.
time that we give birth, and then through the process of that of trusting of it's like a labyrinth, you just walk one step in front of the next and it's going to lead you this way and this way, and then you can kind of see where you've been and you think you're almost at the end but you're still at the beginning, or vice
Mm.
versa. And then you come around and get to that place where you find your center and who you really are. And on the other side of it, this threshold after giving birth, then you can recognize that you have evolved through the process. Like you've metamorphosized like the caterpillar into the butterfly, and now you're reborn
Mm.
new after it. You faced all those challenges. And then you get to know what you're made of if you have proper support and encouragement along that journey. Yeah, it's
Mm.
very powerful.
So you just said something that I wrote a poem like it had to have been almost a couple years ago now, at one of our fourth trimester village gatherings. We have a beautiful mama named Keely Bruner who leads our Moon Muse, and she led us through a short poetry writing thing that, like, I ended that village and continued writing. And the most profound piece of that poetry that I wrote was, when I birthed you, I rebirthed myself. And as I mother you, I'm remothering myself. And what you just said is so true. As we bring and we go through this metamorphosis into becoming the butterfly, we are birthed anew into a whole new us, no matter how many times we've given birth. It's another transportation into this version of ourselves. And I think that that's something that I wish was discussed and framed in that way to children as they're growing up and they're thinking about what it means to become a parent or want to become a parent. I know as a little girl, like I had all the dollies in the world and I was going to be a mommy to all the dollies. And like I wanted to have lots of babies. And that was like, to me, it was just like taking care of and loving on. And it didn't encompass this reality of a rebirth of who I am and becoming a new version of myself and shedding pieces of myself that I will miss and that did serve me before as I figure out what is going to serve me moving forward. And the intentionality throughout that birth process of having a community and a support system that speaks in this way, that supports you in coming into alignment within yourself and tapping into your own intuition so that you can pull on those strings and connect with these messages that we inherently have if we're listening, so that we can navigate that transition after birth into the postpartum season in a way that really involves what you described as, I'll label surrender, which is kind of what you described, like this labyrinth walk of like trust and surrender and leaning in to the unknown.
Yeah, exactly. And having people who are around you who see you as capable is a real key to that. And, not all of us have family members who will see us as capable of all of that or recognize that, but we can seek that community out, like through working with you, the coaching that you offer weekly. That's an excellent place for people who are pregnant to find that level of support where someone is going to see them as capable and does believe in intuition and does want to hear what's important to them. And like, there's so many clients that I've worked with over the years who would come to me up for their second baby. And I mean, that was almost, I would say, the majority, aside from repeat clients. It was rare to have a first time mom every once in a while, but the majority were people who had gone through the what in our culture would label today traditional, which is the opposite of traditional, actually. The traditional childbirth experience in the United States right now, what we can think of, the last 100 years anyway. Going through the whole system and being told what to do, and medications just given to them without even telling them what they're for or what the risks are, and just kind of an assembly line experience. And then on the other side of that, feeling kind of blindsided, like, what the heck just happened? Like, this was this huge thing, because intrinsically we know that it's an incredible, huge thing. We know it in our bones, even if everybody else is telling us it's just a medical thing. We know that it's so
Mm-hmm.
much more than that. It's vast and deep. And so on the other side of that, then there's this disillusionment that a lot of people experience of like, what did I just go through? And they'll carry you know like trauma from it. And that's why we see so many people in the grocery store, just any pregnant woman they see, like, oh, get the epidural, or make sure you did it, or it's going to be terrible, or did it, because they haven't processed, because on the other side of it, nobody acknowledged what a huge deal this was. And nobody acknowledged that they didn't even know what was going on potentially. And they don't even recognize they experienced trauma because it's, quote, normal. What they had was normal. So then that's why we have so many people who are still walking around unprocessed trauma from their birth, because they don't even nobody's validated that they even experienced any level of trauma. So this disillusionment just kind of continues forward. So I would have
Hmm.
people come to me like, I want something different. I don't know what exactly, I don't know, but I just know it ain't that. And that's when we would start to have those conversations about, well, what do you want? And what about your intuition? And if you could envision your birth, what would it be like? And who do you want to be there? And what music do you want? Or just any of those kind of things. But you're right, it's like not even talked about in our culture, really.
It's not talked about at all. And if you're listening to this episode as it airs, the episode that just aired right before this is about PTSD in in the perinatal season. And a big component of that contributes to PTSD is birth trauma. And it's this sense of lack of control. Like we don't have choice. Things are being told to us in a very scary way. Like we must make a decision now because our baby's safety is at risk. And when things are lined up like that and you're in like this corner of, I don't have a choice anymore. Like I walked into this room, I don't have a choice. Like this is the only route I can go. We walk out of that experience holding on to this trauma that you're describing. And we know deep down inside, like that was us being stripped of our dignity, our power being taken away from us in a situation where they're not intending to. Like they're just trying to help in the way that doctors are trained medically in the Western world to help give birth in what we consider like necessary hospital realm in our society. And it really disempowers us from being able to have a say of like, I can do this, or can't I try a little bit longer? Or can I leave this room and walk around? Please let me eat something. Like, I need to eat something if I'm going to have energy for this. Like, I need somebody standing next to me and holding me. Don't keep leaving every 20 minutes. Like, that's really disrupting my flow. Or you're putting a monitor on me, or you're checking inside of me. I can't calm down and I can't relax and trust my body when that's going on. All of these things that can seem normal in a birth process when you talk to your friends that have given birth in the hospital, our body can hold on to that as trauma and it influences how we experience motherhood because trauma, birth trauma, is oftentimes one of the triggers that leads to us experiencing anxiety and depression and overwhelm and a loss of sense of self and separation from our child and disconnect in that postpartum season. It leads to the perinatal mood and anxiety disorders.
Yeah, absolutely. That feeling of powerlessness. I know there have been studies done on that where there were people that had, an unmedicated birth, people who had a cesarean birth, people who had various different medications that were used, things like that. And then what they were looking at was with trauma, like coming on the other side of it and feeling like there was a lot that was really unresolved from the birth. So much of it wasn't specific to how the baby emerged, but was the woman listened to? Did she have a say in things? Did she feel supported, or did they feel supported as they went through the process? Um, and yeah, it's like, we go into doctor visits and it's all about just, the 5 minute checkup and whatever, but there's so much more that can actually have this be something that um, is transformative in the absolute best of ways for us. It can bring so much empowerment, connection to our bodies, acknowledging what's important to us, um, and for us, we can actually find our voice for the first time sometimes when we're pregnant. So yeah, like bringing a consciousness to this of like, what can we do to support ourselves while we're still pregnant? What can we do to create the best nest of support for us while we're giving birth? And then what can we put in place after we've given birth so that we can continue to feel empowered by our experience and supported and have choice and be listened to deeply and feel like we matter and all of that. And we can do that. It's just a matter of creating the time and space and getting the right support.
Mm. Can we go into each one of those briefly? I want people to walk away from this podcast episode hearing tangible things that they can implement to prepare them for birth and the season following, the postpartum season, the recovery from birth. And many of us, like I was Googling the other day, there's a ton of lists out there and like checklists that you can go find for getting items that you need to heal after birth. And that's kind of where our society focuses on is what items am I going to need to provide healing and comfort for me and my baby? But we don't usually discuss or see checklists around how do you build that supportive community that you're describing? How do you walk out from this experience of birth, a changed human, and then step back into this life where everything is anew and feel like you have the tools that you need to go through that? And so, in your beautiful wisdom that you have from years of experience doing this, as well as a mama yourself, and for all of you listeners out there, I mentioned that Magical Mamas is the business that Jen founded and runs. This is like statewide. It's huge. There's hundreds of moms who have found their home in this community. And so something that Jen is really, really good at is building community and building supportive connections and thinking about the little things that end up having big impact, like how to implement ritual into your life and how to focus on the stuff that really matters. And so, I'd love to turn the mic to you and just have space to speak on what are some of the tangible things we can do to prepare for motherhood, for this transition, this season of life. Maybe some of the things might be for birth, but for the postpartum season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to talk about these things. I would say the first thing is courage. And courage only happens when we are feeling some kind of fear or resistance. So I would say with developing, building community and asking for help, that takes courage. And in our culture, especially for women and girls, we are not encouraged to develop our voice. And that's something I would say if someone is listening to this and they're pregnant or they are planning to become pregnant, then I would say beginning to develop your community is number one. And so, oftentimes we will just have like acquaintances at work or, we just, especially with social media, the way that it is right now, we, not very many of us have a lot of close female friends or friends that would support us through our pregnancy or birth process or postpartum. And we need to develop that. So I would say just reaching out, like one of the things I recommend during pregnancy is having a meal prep party. And that can be towards the end of pregnancy, but reaching out to acquaintances, not just close friends, and inviting them to come over and chop up some veggies with you, put some music on, have some board games that you can play afterwards, and invite everybody to come make a meal that is going to have maybe each person also brings over a crock pot or an Instapot. And you're going to make this huge meal together and you're going to purchase all of the food. Everybody's going to be chopping up veggies, talking, music. And then at the end of the evening, they're going to come home with a bowl of soup or whatever you've made. And you're going to have, like maybe 12 servings of that soup that you can keep in your freezer. That's just a pragmatic example of how to provide for yourself so that you have the sustenance that you need, but also to develop community. And when you have people who are coming over to cook and stuff like that, you can ask them like, hey, would you be up for bringing a meal over? I don't know if I'm going to want to have company because I know I'm going to be tired and, I'll be up at all kinds of crazy hours, but I would love to have a meal just so I can make sure I have my basic needs met. I know that is difficult to say. I really get that because we don't want to burden anyone. We don't want to make anybody feel a certain way. Well, the good news is we can't make anybody feel anything. We don't have control over them. And actually, if someone asks you from that vulnerable place of, I'm about to have a baby. I know I need to take care of myself. I know I can't fix my own food for a while. I need to be resting. Would you be willing to drop a meal off? That is such a blessing for someone to ask you to do that because number one, it means they trust you. You can feel that. And number two, they're telling you they need help and you can help them. And being able to help someone out like that, it's so good for our soul. It just does us good. So that's like one simple, pragmatic thing that can actually be more far reaching. I know that we had talked a little bit about the idea of a mother blessing. So I wanted to bring that too. And that is, you can Google this. If you Google Blessing Way or Mother Blessing, Blessing Way is actually a Navajo tradition. And I am not Navajo, so I don't call it that. And actually, a Blessing Way was used for many things, not just to bless someone who's about to give birth. I call it a mother blessing. But in our culture, we have a tradition of baby showers, which is very much like you mentioned, Dina. It's very much focused on the things, the swing and the crib, or or the stroller, or the all the clothes. um, which we get way too many of. We don't even use them all. And fun, silly games, and that's all great. I don't think there's anything wrong with baby showers. I think that we all need that kind of pragmatic support. Um, but I think it's really important to bring in the honoring piece because this is someone who is going to be going through a major transformation and they are not going to be the same on the other side of it. And they're going to be incredibly vulnerable and they need to bring a lot of courage to this experience. So if doing a mother blessing where someone invites her friends to come over, and there's so many beautiful ways that you can do this. Like what I like to do is everybody make a collage. So I bring out magazines and glue sticks and scissors and paper, and then everyone makes a collage for the person who's going to give birth with blessings for them. So, like, maybe it's pictures of somebody who's happy, or it's words like, powerhouse or milk mama or whatever it might be to offer blessings. Other ways that people have done that are having a yarn that they pass around and everybody offers a blessing to the person who's going to be giving birth. And then you pass it to the next person and they wrap it around their wrist each time that the person offers a blessing. And then at the end, you can feel you're actually in a circle together viscerally, that circle of support. And at a mother blessing, there's many other ways you can look up for how to do this, making flower crowns, lots of stuff, a candle. But at that mother blessing, I really encourage people to have a sign up sheet of like, I don't know when I'm going to give birth, of course, or sometimes people do if they have a scheduled C-section. But, at some point, after this, I will need some support. So maybe it's meals and they can sign up to do that. One of the things I want to bring forward is the Seven Sisters program, which it has a book, a short book, but the concept is kind of like creating the village of seven people, usually seven women, who will take the first 7 weeks after someone gives birth and they will bring over a meal 1 day a week. So, like, if I'm a seven sister for someone, I might be on Tuesdays, and every Tuesday for 7 weeks, I drop off a meal. Potentially, depending on what the family needs and what they're comfortable with, I might come in to do a chore. I'm not cleaning the whole house, but I might be folding the diaper laundry, if she's got cloth diapers, or I might be sweeping the kitchen. It's just little things like that and dropping off a meal. And depending on if she's awake or not, when I come, I might be sitting with her and just listening, checking in. How are you, sister? How are you? How's your heart? I'm not there to hold the baby unless she wants to take a shower and I could hold the baby, but it's not about that. It's about being an actual support for her. It's not a big deal for me. 1 day a week, all I do is I'm cooking for my family. I make double of what I've made. And then I just drop that off in a container at a doorstep, or I come in and help out. but it's no burden on me. If you have 7 people that are doing this, it works great. Nobody's overwhelmed. And then if I can't, oh, my kid's sick, I can't come today, I'm sorry. No problem. Somebody else is coming tomorrow, you know? So this is how community can come together. We don't have to have any special qualifications to do this, to create community like this. And if one person in a community does this, then the next time somebody gets pregnant within that community or that workplace or whatever, maybe they'll do it for them. And that's how we continue to build community like that. So those are some ideas for pregnancy.
Motherhood is a beautiful journey, but it can also be overwhelming. Do you often find yourself feeling isolated, struggling to find balance, and yearning for a sense of identity beyond mom? Trust me, you're not alone. Join the Empowered Mamas Club, where you'll discover a supportive community of like minded mothers. Gain valuable skills to navigate those highs and lows of motherhood, reclaim your sense of self, and become the engaged and present mom that you desire so that you can create cherished moments with your little ones. It's time to prioritize your well being and rediscover the joy in motherhood. Click the link in the show notes and join us in the Empowered Mamas Club today. I absolutely love those. The Seven Sisters for 7 days was so powerful when I learned about it, and we did it with my best friend. I learned about it well after I had my son, but it conceptualized and it brought together this way of like, how do you realistically build the community? How do you learn to ask for help? The book is brilliant. You can read it in a few hours. It's really short and it's really easy to digest, but it gives tangible information in there around like, I struggle asking for help. How do I work through this? How can I ask for help? Here are some templates I can ask for help. And then in the back of the book, there's like, here's an email I can send out where I put in my information and the thought work is done and it's asking for help really eloquently. It's just such a beautiful resource to bridge that gap. Thank you for sharing about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's something that you can bring into a mother blessing. And mother blessings are great too for just sharing what I call power stories. My mentor, Sister Morningstar, she has a book called Power Stories. And that's what we need. We need, while we're pregnant, to be hearing people talk about how wonderful their birth was. Well, everybody has an aspect of their birth that was magnificent. Everybody has at least one moment they can recall that they can share. And in that way, we're speaking medicine over her, over this person who's about to give birth. And we resonate with these stories. We're very open, and our bodies are beginning, our bodies, our spirits are beginning to open as we expand. Our heart center is also beginning to expand when we're pregnant, because we're about to welcome in this baby. So we need that expansiveness so that we can do what we need to do as new moms. But like as we're going through that process, we're opening and we're expanding. It's an opportunity for us to expand into asking for support too, and doing those things that are challenging for us. But we need to be hearing stories to say, yes, it was challenging and I did it. And you know what?
Yes.
So will you. And I'm
Yes.
going to be here for you. Like however this birth plays out, these 7 sisters are going to be there. And that's what they need to hear is like, I'm not going to abandon you. I'm going to be here to support you after you give birth. And there are going to be beautiful moments in this, guaranteed. And here are some of mine. And I see you as capable of doing this. And that's what allows us to walk into this experience trusting ourselves. Like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if I'm going to be like, if I'm planning to birth at home. The truth is, I don't know where I'm going to be giving birth. I might be giving birth at home. I might be giving birth in a hospital. I might be giving birth in a car. If you think you're going to give birth in a car, just stay home. That's better. But just my advice as a midwife. Um, but just call EMS and stay home. But so I don't know what this is going to look like, but I sure do you cuss on this podcast? Do you know?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, but I sure as shit know me. I sure know what I'm made of, and that regardless of what happens here, I am going to be okay. I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to take good care of myself. And those medicine stories like that really support us in developing that confidence.
Oh, it's so empowering. Like just hearing you speak like that empowers me just listening in this conversation with you. Like, heck, yes, I can do that. I can do anything. I know what I'm made of. Like, that's what we need as we're embarking on this journey. Oh my gosh. Like, kudos. Kudos to that.
Oh, thank you, sister. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
then, as far as like the birth, I also think that it's very helpful, although not everyone needs one or it's not appropriate for everyone. I do really think that having a doula makes quite a difference because there's lots of studies on this. And with doulas, it doesn't even necessarily need to be someone who is certified, in my opinion, but just having a person there. Generally, this is going to be a woman, someone who you can be very vulnerable with and who is not a medical professional, someone who is just there to hold your hand and rub your back and remind you of your power and compliment you on and remind you how far you've come and also bring you into the present moment so you stop worrying about the future, who will just journey with you, regardless of where you go and what happens and all of that, that they are really just there for you. They've got no other patients. They've got nothing else that they're focusing on. They're just there for you, like talking about our instinct and intuition and the spiritual side of things. That's important. We actually need that. I believe we need at least one person who's not medical, who is completely on our side and just there as almost like a handmaiden, who's going to get us food and water and all the things that we need, and just the person who can hold our hand. And oftentimes our partners, like for me, both times that I gave birth, I needed my partner there. I've been married twice, so my children have different dads. Both times I needed them there with me. What I needed them to do was hold my hand, see me as capable, and just love me. But I did not want them to give me suggestions, even of like positions to be getting into or things like that. I know some people love that. For me, I didn't want that from my partner. I just wanted his presence as like a solid, healthy, masculine presence. Like if a bear came in the room, he's going to try to take it out for me. I can be vulnerable in that way. He's going to protect me, but I needed the feminine presence there to just hold my hand, help me in and out of the tub, like just someone who would remind me of who I am in those difficult moments, which those difficult moments of self-doubt, that is a requirement for initiation. Initiations require that moment of, I am not sure if I can do this, because then on the other side of it, when you've done that, that supports that metamorphosis and that supports our confidence going forward. If I can do that, I can mother this child. I can do what I need to do. So I feel like a doula is great for that. And I've been a doula for many years. I was a doula, and then of course I've been a midwife for many years. And even as a midwife, I still recommend every client I have to consider a doula because I am a medical professional. So I've got numbers going. I'm taking blood pressure. I'm looking out for all these things. I've got 12 scenarios that are going in my head of if this then this, if this then this, if this then this, to keep everybody safe there as best as I can. And so I can't be as free and clear to just be fully present like a doula can. So I highly recommend doulas as well, like for the
I
birth.
second that. So we had a doula. We had a doula and we went with a midwife practice. So for all of those who are listening, you can go to your gynecologist and they will obviously support you in the birth of your child, and they'll tell you which hospital they birth at, and you might meet a series of doctors. There's also a similar practice that's a midwife practice that you go to the doctor. There's usually a gynecologist at those midwife practices too. Ours had one. I never once met them. I just met a series of midwives. And I also had a doula. And I must tell you, I love how you organize the masculine presence and the feminine presence because our doula, her name was Darcy Jo Mama. God bless her. She came over and I labored for a very long time. I had back labor and I labored in silence. I was in a meditative state for the majority of it. But when she came over, I felt so held. I felt so safe. She knew exactly where to push on my back to alleviate pain. I didn't have to use my voice and communicate anything. She intuitively was like this mother presence of this. She connected with her intuition to know what I needed and her practice. Obviously, she's been doing it for a long time. But I didn't have to say much. I just got to exist in the state that I was in and follow her lead when it was time to go and feel safe when it was like I just needed to be in my brain because there's this, and you alluded to this, but there's this sacred place that you retreat to inside when you're giving birth. And it's this space where you're holding like immense energy, surges, pain, feelings, being in the body, getting out of the head, coming back into that moment, breath, movement. You're holding that. And that is like taking all of your attention and focus. And I didn't have space outside of that to communicate my needs or to ask questions or to worry about someone else's problems or to worry about what was next. I literally could only hold that moment for myself if I wanted to stay in that presence. And when we made it to the hospital, like that broke for me because all of a sudden you have all of these energies, the person in the bed next to you in the triage room, like in their state of labor. And it just gets intense and it's hard to stay inward. But I didn't have to communicate anything in the hospital. Like I made it very clear to our doula, like I want all communication handled with my husband. You know what I want, he knows what I want. If things go sideways, like he's the person who makes the calls and I'm not to be informed. I don't want to know if something's not right because I would need to stay and keep my power within myself. And doulas do that. She did it. She did a freaking phenomenal job. It was not seamless behind the scenes, even though it was good to me. Like it was so powerful. And that feminine energy of like, okay, my husband's got it. The masculine of my husband having it. If anything sideways, like I trust he's holding that fort down and he's going to make the decisions that like I trust in, and she's going to hold me and she's going to hold my care and she's going to be my voice when I can't answer your questions right now or can't be bothered with something like that mother energy, like mothering the mother in that moment was so powerful and it felt so right. It felt so right for me in my birth process.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just what you said, Dina. You know, we are just, I remember not being able to speak at all too, like because you're in the zone like that. And Dina, Darcy was my doula.
Shut
Yes. I was like, don't. When you said that, I like had to just like pause myself for a second not to interrupt you.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding me.
No, no, we
Oh,
have to
she's
let
magic.
Darcy know.
I
It's
know.
total magic. That's amazing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Darcy was actually my assistant, my midwifery assistant for a couple of years. And then I wanted her to come to be my doula for my birth with my daughter. So I know that. I know what you speak of.
Such
Isn't that wild?
magic.
It's total magic.
This world is so small. The fact that that happened and like I had the aha moment of like I knew you, like I met you like 6 years prior to realizing I met you. Like what? The universe. So powerful.
Us together. It's so beautiful. And this is the kind of magic that happens when you just start asking for support, you seeking out community, like that this is the kind of stuff that happens, these incredible connections that you're like, okay, that's mind blowing. So yeah, reach out, find a doula. Darcy's amazing here in Arizona, obviously. So, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
gosh.
So I agree. I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things that, like, during pregnancy that you can do that's going to have the biggest impact is having a doula. Just having
Mm-hmm.
someone who's going to really be there for you. And then, you know, like asking the tough questions. That's why I was mentioning courage is like the thing, because asking the tough questions of providers as well. A lot of people don't start thinking about their birth until they're at like 34 or 36 weeks.
Yeah.
And then they'll ask their provider, they'll like see something that's like, oh, maybe I need to write a birth plan, or maybe I need to start thinking about this. And then they'll ask their provider, and the provider will just dismiss them, like, oh, yeah, you know, we'll just have to see how it goes while they're talking about, I don't want to have medication, let's say, for instance. And they're just kind of dismissed. If you're dismissed when you ask a question of your provider about what's going to be allowed or about what they would do in a certain situation, that is a red flag. That would be something where I would suggest that you continue to ask questions, more questions if you get dismissive response. And if it continues like that, fire them. They are actually a servant to you. You're paying good money for them, or your insurance company is. And if they're not in alignment with what you want, they won't be at your birth. And that's where a lot of that disempowerment and, you know, on the other side, feeling like you kind of got washed in the waves of the birth. That's where a lot of that can come in. So it's okay. And actually, I would say vitally important to ask your provider the tough questions, and see them as your servant. It's okay. They are. That's the reality. They are not an authority figure. You are the authority on what your body needs,
Mm.
and what happens to your body and who cares for your body. That's,
Yes.
you're the authority on that. So I really encourage people as well, like in thinking about, well, how can I create a protective, spiritual, loving experience for myself, is also interviewing your provider. And if you change your mind halfway through, or 3/4 of the way through your pregnancy, that is a-okay. You will be able to do an interview, you know, for, you know, once a day for 3 or 4 days maybe, and find a good fit, someone who legitimately feels right for you, who's going to respect you and your wishes, and then you can switch over and have a much better experience.
Yes, it's never too late. I was just gonna say that piece. It's never too late to switch. And it can feel intimidating. Like, well, I only have a few weeks left. That can feel really scary to say, like, I'm gonna throw the plan in the air and create what I really want right now. But when you follow those pieces of your intuition of like, this isn't right, and you listen to that, there's something else waiting for you to say yes. There is a possibility out there that's waiting for you, that's meant for you. You don't have to like worry that it's not going to be there. If your body, if your gut, if your intuition, your wisdom is saying, no, this is not a good fit, and you're giving birth in a week, you're scheduled, right? For a week. That's when I'm due, air quotes. Then in you're getting that message, that's because there's something better that's waiting for you to say yes to it. There's a possibility already waiting there. And I want to share that because as an anxious person who's a type A personality and needs to control everything, like that feels terrifying. Heck no, like I will just muster through it. Thank you. Like not throwing the plan down the toilet. Can't do that one. But when I feel reassured, like, oh, wait, like if I trust, like you said, walking that labyrinth in birth, if I trust that if I follow my intuition and I do throw that plan down the toilet and I express out loud what plan I am wanting and I type it into a Facebook group or I say it to the friend I'm having coffee with, or I mention it to a coworker, there's already something lined up for you. And that's how I found my birth journey. That was me expressing myself. I had a doctor's appointment and I thought my doctor was a good fit. She had like this spiritual necklace on and I was like, "Oh, I think we're going to be good. Like this feels right." And then she starts like I started asking her questions about birth because I'm very afraid of pain and I'm afraid of needles. And she mentioned that I'd get an IV and I said, "Oh, well, I don't want an IV." And she says, "Well, you have to have an IV." And I said, "Why? I don't want to be poked. Like I don't want an IV. Like if I have to have an IV, I'm sick. I'm not well. Like I don't want an IV. Like that's scary to me. That's connected to programming in my brain of like, uh-oh." And I don't want that. And she said, "Well, then I can't be your provider." And that broke my heart in the moment because I was like, "Did I just get fired by my doctor? Like, am I difficult? Is there something wrong with me? Am I hard to work with?" And it was the biggest blessing in disguise because that's how I found the midwife group. And then through doing yoga, I found a doula who then referred me to Darcy. Like all the pieces connected. And it's just trusting that I have a mentor, Julie Santiago. She says, trust the sparkly breadcrumb trail. Like just keep following those sparkly breadcrumbs as you go, and it will lead you where you're meant to be. So it's never too late. It's never too late to change the plan to align with what feels right for you.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I think it's really important to share about that too. And just like you said, what a huge blessing. I can speak from the perspective of a provider that when there is a provider who is like, oh, okay, well, it's got to be like by the book, like no, there's no deviation. Everybody has the same plan. Why are they doing that? It's CYA. That's why they're doing that. The most litigious profession is obstetrics. So obstetricians get sued more than basically anybody else. And so when it's like that, it's about I do this so that I am protected here. There can be no deviation from the plan. What an excellent sign for you. Thank goodness that she just did that of her own accord. Bless her. Bless her that she knew that she wasn't a right fit for you. Actually, that was the reality there.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so that's a great another just red flag when someone's like, "Oh, you have to do every medical procedure." Like they're not interested in your experience, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, we have a right to have a provider who actually genuinely cares.
absolutely. I feel like I could sit here and talk with you all day, Jen. This is just my jam, and you are my jam. And so I know for time's sake, we need to begin wrapping this up. I want to just create one more opportunity. I know you're just so, the way that you do ritual, the way that you bring ceremony into things that we would call mundane parts of life or things that have just become protocol. You've found a way to bring ritual back to that. And I think that ritual and ceremony belongs in the transition. It belongs in birth. It belongs in pregnancy. It belongs in motherhood. And there's such a sacred connection there. And so as like I know you created a beautiful list of things that you would share to prepare for and plan for in this journey. I would just say the common thread that was weaved through all of that was tied into ritual, was tied into being intentional, finding things that are in alignment, doing things from a space that is committed to this is me. This is what feels right. I'm intentionally doing this. I'm intentionally calling in the support. I'm intentionally organizing a meal prep party, right? I'm intentionally organizing my seven sisters, and each one of those things becomes a ritual and a ceremony as you do that, as you do it with intention, and as you do it within community, which is where motherhood belongs, is within community. Is there anything else you wanted to share or add about this list we've created to support our listeners before we begin wrapping up?
I think the only other thing I would suggest is just making sure that your partner knows what it's going to be like postpartum as far as your ability to do regular household tasks, which is nothing. You can not going to do anything. So I think that that's like where some families get blindsided. Is that the partner doesn't realize that all the things that normally get done are just not going to get done by the person who's giving birth, for like 2 or 3 weeks, like they need to be recovering, have all meals brought to them, up, to go outside, get some fresh air, up to move their bodies a little bit, but no expectation. They're going to be, nursing all the way around the clock or feeding baby all the way around the clock, trying to recover the physical body after this incredible experience, whether they've given birth vaginally or by C-section. It's a big deal on the body. So just all of that, I think, is really important to make sure that you can have a relaxed spiritual experience after you've given birth, is that you are free from the household daily tasks and responsibilities for 2 to 3 weeks. So I just, in case people are pregnant and they're listening, I just wanted to bring that because I have talked to people the last couple years of my career, I've been focused on postpartum. And I have talked with couples where if it's their first baby, or even if they've had other babies, where they're like surprised by that. So I just want to bring that forward. That's the expectation. Play this for your partner, just this little excerpt. Like, did you know that? Let's talk about it. Make the housework for, those 2, 3 weeks after I'm giving birth here. So that'd be the only last piece. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to attach this podcast episode. There's going to be a link for you to download a free checklist of things to prepare for in the postpartum season. And these aren't the items like make padsicles and get witch hazel pads and um, learn how to do a sitz bath. That's not this. It's not about the body. It's about emotionally, community, relationally. How are we going to prepare for the postpartum season? So grab that download below so that you can gain access to just an easy, simple checklist that you can cross off as you go. That's organized for you. And Jen, I would love for you to use this space to talk about magical mamas and all the beautiful things and blessings that you are bringing to moms in my community and our community in Arizona, but now out to the greater world. So please share with us, how do we get connected to your magic?
Oh, thank you, Dina, so much. And I've read through this checklist that Dina is talking about. It is the next level. I can't believe she's giving it away for free. That's amazing. Thank you for doing that, sister. That is incredible. Okay. So then for Magical Mama 13 Moons Online, I've been running the 13 Moons in person program in Arizona for several years. And there is a call to expand it. And so I'm so excited to be doing this. So we just launched in April of 2024. And 13 Moons Online is an opportunity for moms to get together at each new moon and to be connecting with the moon cycles, like connecting with the cycles of nature. And at each new moon, we support each other in manifesting and getting clear about what do we want to create? What do we want to be attracting into our lives, bringing a consciousness into our lives, just like we've been talking about today. But for the greater context of our lives, what do we want? What do we want to experience? And witnessing each other in that and seeing each other as capable. And then at each full moon, we come together online to do our releasing work, to release the blocks that might be in the way, to release resentments, to offer ourselves freedom from those things so that we can then at the new moon manifest and bring in what's really important to us. So it's a community, it's a place to have belonging. If you're kind of into the esoteric stuff, if you're curious about astrology, or you like oracle cards, things like that, this is right up your alley. It's very fun. We have a lot of laughs and we connect with goddess archetypes, stuff like that. So it's a great way to find community and a sense of belonging within yourself, with your sisters in our group, and also with the cosmos and nature.
Thank you so much for sharing about that. Everybody, I am a magical mama. I am in the 13 Moon Circle Thursday morning group and I am obsessed. I last year I was part of the Magical Mom Boss community that Jen organizes and I felt like I had found my people. People that see you and hold space for you in everything that you are with no judgment. There's no wounding that happens in this community. It just feels so nourishing and so safe. And you feel so held as you begin to learn more about yourself. And when I started Magical Mom Boss, I wasn't deep into astrology or oracle cards, but I have slowly become more interested in them as they've become a mirror for me in my life and directed me through my healing. And they've become a way to support me in including ritual and ceremony in my life, which brings back some of the sparkle that can feel like it's missing when you're just so busy all the time. So I highly recommend joining this community, the online community. I've been to one of the meetings for them and it's beautiful. And the magic is still just as potent online as it is in person. I also just want to say this, Jen hosts freaking phenomenal retreats. So she's been hosting retreats for longer than I've been attending them. And she creates space for moms to come together and connect and commune and heal, connect with nature in such powerful ways. And I know you just had a retreat that you're coming back from last weekend, but you also have more on the books. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a retreat called Everyday Goddess Retreat, which is happening in September. And that's where we come together in sisterhood and come to realize what we individually are the everyday goddess of. And we get to declare that, but it's an opportunity to do just what you said, to slow down, to connect with ritual, with earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. And just to take a break from washing dishes and driving and cleaning and all of that so we can have this new vantage point. We can kind of like see our lives from this 10,000 foot view of what do I want to shift and change and how can I bring the most basic simple self-care into a daily practice for myself, those kind of things. So yeah, that's coming up. And then I have a Reiki certification retreat happening in Sedona, and that's in October. Both of those retreats have been going on for many years, and it's a lot of fun. It's great to just get away, and just kind of get lost in the vortex of nourishment in all
Mm,
ways.
mm.
Especially for moms, I feel like we need that. I need that. I personally need to take a break, and then when I come back, I'm so happy to see my kids. I'm so happy to see my husband. I'm like just like everybody is just so happy to be together again. It's like a restart. And each time I come back from retreat, I love it. So thank you for asking about that.
Yes, they're beautiful. I've been to her day retreats. I've been a part of her day retreats, and those are moments that have been in my infinite life cycle, moments where I feel like I'm truly alive and living. I'm not shedding. I'm not I don't know how to describe it very well, but I'm not like being challenged. I'm more so being embraced and I'm connecting deeply with myself and I'm honoring the journey I've been on. And I'm in the life, the living, the life part of the life cycle. And it's such a nourishing space to be held. So I'm going to put all of these links, everything that you need to know. It's going to be easy for you to access on the podcast notes. It'll be in YouTube. It'll be on a blog, in the email, you're going to be able to find access to these. And I really hope you join these communities because they are life changing.
Thank you so much, Dina. This has been so beautiful. I'm so grateful. I feel like the time just flew by. I just love you so much. And I love the community that you've created here. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you, Jen. I love you too. Thank you, everyone who has tuned in. This episode has gone on twice as long as I anticipated because it was just so delicious, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we will see you in the next episode on the Empower to Heal podcast. Take care. Are you on the brink of parenthood, eagerly anticipating the arrival of your little one? Take a proactive step towards preparing for the whirlwind journey ahead by joining our waitlist for the Empowered First Year Postpartum Prep course. Designed with your needs in mind, this online 4-week program offers a comprehensive blend of education, skill building, and community support to guide you through the demanding postpartum season. Don't navigate this transformative time alone. Click the link in the show notes below to join our next cohort and embark on your journey to parenthood with confidence. It has been an honor to share this space with you today on the Empower to Heal podcast, where we illuminate the strength you have within yourself to heal. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming episodes and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.